I've read 7 books in February, and this is what I think of them. Hello, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing amazing. So for today's video, we are going to be going through the 7 books that I read in February. Now, I think last month I said that if I do not read all the books in February, then you can come at me. And guys, you can come at me. I did not read all 5 books on my TBR, but I did read 7, and I think that's a really big feat. And spoiler, one of them was A Little Life, which is a beast. So I'm actually going to give myself some grace and be proud that I read 4 books from my TBR. But without further ado, let's crack on. Just to interject that if you do find yourself enjoying this video, it would mean so much to me if you could like and subscribe. I would love to have you. I would also love to know any of your thoughts on the book that I've read in February, and let's chat about it. So the first book I read in February was A Little Life by Hanya Yanigahara, and I rated this one 4.25 stars. I do genuinely think this is a masterpiece, and if you can, then you should read it. But this is so heavy, this is so emotional, and that is why I say if you can, because if you're heading into this book, you need to check the trigger warnings. So the book itself, it doesn't actually give you too much of a synopsis, so I'm going to try and follow suit. But we have got 4 young men who are basically living in New York, and they have nothing. They're kind of in the creative arts industry, and they are literally just scraping by. But we are mainly in the eyes of Jude, and Jude has had a very traumatic life, literally from the day he was born. And we are kind of gradually understanding what Jude has been through, how this has impacted his life, how this has impacted the lives of those around him. I feel like I can't and don't want to say too much more about this book. I mean, just in case you do have triggers. But for me, this actually spoke about topics that you don't really hear in the mainstream. And I think it's very, very important to speak about. We are mainly exploring men's struggles, men's mental health, and again, I think it's such a prevalent topic in today's world that we just kind of sweep under a rug. This book is a beast. It's 720 pages of pure emotion, trauma, but at the same time, as much as it is so heavy hitting, I found the writing really special and beautiful. And actually there are some beautiful moments in this book that really kind of picked it up for me. But let's be real, 95% of this book is total stress, trauma, emotional, distressing. Now, Jude himself, I did really enjoy him as a character, but he wasn't my favourite, and I know that might be quite controversial. I don't know, I just found that I loved the supporting characters so much more. And I think even though you can have the most amazing support network, that doesn't stop your inner demons from coming out and effectively affecting your mental health. Jude, the main character, had the most amazing support system who would help him in a heartbeat, and literally did. But you know, that doesn't stop the thoughts and the feelings and your past trauma from still being there. And actually, I think this book shows that really well. Now, as much as I do think this is a masterpiece, I did find that there was a few discrepancies, just minor things, but I don't really want to say just because I feel like it could be treading on spoiler territory. But there was just a few things that I was questioning in my mind, and I wanted the answers. Now, I did mention about how this book is so chunky, being 720 pages. I do think that was intentional. The chapters were really, really long. Like, some of them were around 80 to 90 pages. The sentences were really long as well. And I just think the book itself was a little bit repetitive. But again, I really do think that was intentional. I genuinely felt all the emotions that the characters were going through, the despair, the agony, the joy, the elation. Like, genuinely, I think Hanya Yanigahara's writing was absolutely superb. Now, as much as this is a very heavy, dense, traumatic read, there were small slivers of hope scattered throughout. I am pleased to have read this book. I do think it highlights some issues that, you know, should be raised more in the mainstream media. But this did take me 2 weeks to read. So this basically took half of my February reads. And that is why I'm quite pleased that I managed to read 7 overall. Do I recommend this? I mean, I feel like that's a really hard one to answer because it all depends on you and your triggers and whether you're capable of reading this, because ultimately you need to put yourself first. And I'm sorry, I don't feel like that was too much of a great review, just because I don't really want to go too much into depth of the contents due to obviously spoilers and due to triggers. So yeah, I feel like with this one, you may need to do your own research before heading into it. The next book I read was The Front Runner by Elsie Silver, and I rated this one 4.25 stars. I finally have some faith in Elsie Silver. I literally gobbled this one up. I loved it so much. So we are back in the Gold Rush Ranch series, and this time we are focusing on Mira. And then we also have Stefan, who is kind of portrayed as the enemy of the series, but really he's just a little bit misunderstood. And before I go on any further, why do we not speak about Stefan Dalka a lot more? Like, I was swooning over Stefan Dalka, and I feel like he's never mentioned within the Elsie Silver universe as like one of the main men, and I don't know, I really liked him. Now, I think the reason why I absolutely love this book is because our male main character and our female main character are appropriately aged. There's no like 20-year age gap, you know, there's no funny business going on. He's literally just the vet and someone who owns a business. Like there's not much going on, and that is what I liked. They are a little bit older, which as a 30-year-old I much appreciate, but that also meant we had a much more substantial storyline, and there weren't that like silly dialogue. And by silly dialogue, I'm talking about Billy. I just can't stand Billy in the Gold Rush Ranch series. She's so childish. And I'm sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. The actual plot, I do feel like it had a little bit more substance. We were talking about more serious issues, and therefore it made it a little bit more enjoyable for me. Mira is a very strong-willed and kind of do-it-herself type of FMC, which I absolutely love. And Stefan, I really did enjoy his kind of character arc, which I think we all knew was coming, but I'm not sure how I feel about his portion of the story. I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I actually love it or if I actually hate it. What happened at the end with Stefan's family. And I guess I need to read the fourth book to kind of solidify my thoughts. The ending, it was very dramatic, but a dramatic ending that I absolutely loved and just kept turning the pages for. So I don't know. I don't know if it's because I read A Little Life that was super heavy and I just needed something really kind of light and fluffy, although it wasn't really super fluffy. But yeah, I just absolutely devoured this one, and it has restored my faith in Elsie Silver. Although I think the next one, A False Start in this series, is quite bad again. So we'll see. I think his age gap, I don't do well with age gap, as you know, so we'll see how we get on. The next book I read was Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, and I'm going to give this one a 3.75. I was contemplating maybe a 4, but actually upon thinking about it, this definitely sits at 3.75 for me. So the synopsis, I can't really give too much away because obviously it is a sequel. Pip had her case in the first book. She's now turned that into a podcast, which has been super successful. It's gone viral, and she's vowed to never become a detective again. But of course, someone close to her or a well-known friend has come to her and said, I need help with this situation. Can you help solve? And as much as she wants to decline, she can't help but get herself involved in a good old detective case. This one was fun. It was very easy to read. I think I read it in a couple of days, but it just did not compare to the first book, in my opinion. To me, it felt exactly the same concept as the first book, which I get, obviously, like how much different can, you know, a teenage girl be trying to solve crimes, but it just kind of felt a copy and paste, just with a different kind of scenario and case file. So I don't know, I just feel like the first one was a lot better. I also wasn't a fan where the plot went at the ending. I do feel like it was done for kind of shock factor as opposed to actually the plot. I mean, I haven't read the third book. This is second in a series, by the way, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, but I don't know. I've not read the third one, whether it actually does come to play, but at the moment, I just felt maybe it was a bit rushed. It felt like shock factor. So I wasn't wholly keen on where the plot went to at the ending. On that note, the pacing felt a little bit off. It was quite slow to start with. Again, I think we were recapping the events that happened in the first book for like the first 50 pages or so. And then by page 100, we kind of got into the meat and bones of the new case. And then kind of the last 50 pages was just like go, 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 go. And it was like super fast paced. And I don't know, it just felt a little bit off for me. And while I never actively try and guess who the culprit is, the suspicious person / people, not going to give anything away, but it was so obvious to me. Like, it was just so obvious. So again, I had to knock points down for that. Pip, now I know she's been through a lot in the first book, but she had a little bit of a attitude problem in this one, just slightly. And I get it, you know, she's been through a lot. She's had a lot of hard times on her shoulders, but I just didn't want to read about it. I feel like she was being rude to the wrong people, and I don't know, I wasn't here for it. So that annoyed me just slightly. But on that note, I do think it is a good sequel, like not to the point where I'm not going to read the last one. And actually, I am super excited to still read the final one in the series. I say final, but we've got Killjoy, haven't we? Is that necessary to complete this series though? I mean, I most probably will pick it up. But yeah, overall, a solid read. Great sequel to a series, and I would definitely recommend picking it up and reading if you have read the first one. The next book I read was The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and again, I rated this one 3.75 stars. I feel like this is very similar to my feelings on Good Girl Bad Blood, but this is the third book in the Inheritance Game series, and personally, I just felt like something was a little bit off. I do feel like potentially this could have been a duology. I feel like maybe as 3 books, it may have been just stretched a little bit. But overall, I'm still glad I've read it to kind of conclude the series. Although again, I'm saying conclude the series, but we do have the Brothers Hawthorne, I think, to read. So I will read that one, but just not anytime soon. So I can't obviously say too much about the synopsis because this is the 3rd book in the series and we are just following on from the first 2 books. But essentially, Avery is solving more riddles, more puzzles that Tobias Hawthorne has set out for her. Personally, for me, I just feel like something was lacking. And I don't know what it is. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. It was very easy to read. There were shorter chapters. So I can't really complain too much about it, but it just felt a little bit, I don't want to say bland, but the first 2 was miles ahead of this one. Now, the actual riddles itself, I'm sorry, you have to be a literal mastermind to solve any of these. And I just want to say the fact that I do think Jennifer Lynn Barnes is such an amazing writer to come up with these riddles itself. Like, she's superb. But as an actual reader, I don't feel like you would get many of them, especially in this book. Again, I'm reiterating what I said about the second book, in that Max is one of the most annoying characters I've ever come across in a book. Like, honestly, I can't stand her. Orin, I had some issues with Orin in the second book, but he was much better in this one. But I think what really stood out for me is that Grayson, one of the brothers, he just had a really bad character arc. Like, in the first book, I really enjoyed Grayson. In the second one, I liked him, but again, I saw the difference. And I get why there is a difference in Grayson. But in this book, he was a wet lettuce. I just feel like the character as a whole had so much potential and it just fell flat to me. But I do think that's the point. Like, I think Jennifer Lynn Barnes was trying to do something with his character, which she achieved, but weren't great for reading. You know, the actual villain, you are never going to get the villain. It's impossible. I do feel like it's impossible because of the factors that play in this book and the people that are maybe joining the story at a later stage, etc. I don't know, sometimes I go into series thinking that maybe it's a twist that you may potentially get, but for this one, I just don't see how the villain and whatnot relates to the first 2 books. But again, maybe I need a reread. I don't know, maybe I'm being salty. It does sound like I'm bashing the book, but I did actually really enjoy it. I done this also as a buddy read, which was super fun. I also loved the way that it ended. I think it sets up nicely for the spin-off series. And yeah, I think it was, overall, it is a good series. I would recommend, but I think the first book is definitely kind of the shining star. The next book I read was actually an e-arc, so thank you so much to NetGalley and Kensington Publishing for sending me this one, and that was The Fourth Wife by Linda Hamilton, and I gave this one 4.25 stars. I was very pleasantly surprised by this one. I also think this is a debut fiction novel for Linda Hamilton, and I absolutely love that. I will definitely be looking out for more of her books in the future. And this one is released on the 31st of March, 2026. So the premise of this one is we have got Hazel, and she is a young Mormon woman. And one day, kind of the head of their religious group says to them, I've been told by God, and it's your right to marry Jacob. But the problem is she is actually going to be his fourth wife. Now, she can't really object because God has told the head of this group that this is what she's destined to do. So she goes along and she becomes Jacob's fourth wife. Now, she goes to Jacob's house and lives with the 3 other wives, but it turns out this house isn't all what it seems to be. So as much as this is a kind of gothic historical fiction, we do have a little bit of a paranormal setting going on. I absolutely love this one. I will be the first to admit I'm not religious, so I don't know much about the Mormon religion and culture and whatnot. I've just kind of heard bits and bobs. But I really appreciated this book because I felt like I did actually learn quite a bit. And this one is set in, I believe, the 1800s, I want to say. I'm so sorry if I've got that wrong. But it is set in the past, perhaps where the laws are starting to come into place. And now it's kind of looked down upon to have a polyamorous marriage. Now, Hazel herself, I really liked Hazel as a character and her character arc. I thought it was fantastic, but also what I loved even more is the interactions that Hazel had with the 3 other wives. Each wife had their own personality and kind of their own little job within the house. I mean, I can't even begin to fathom what that must be like to be in a polyamorous marriage. And it's just crazy to me that, you know, a woman is to have their role in their house just to please, you know, their husband or the man of the house. I just really enjoyed exploring that side of things. Now, Hazel herself, as I mentioned before, her character arc, I was rooting for her from the very beginning. I mean, you could clearly see how she has been indoctrinated by her faith, and she kind of knows maybe this is not right or it's not right for her. But she carries on anyway because this is what she's been told her entire life. And slowly but surely, she's coming into her own mind and she can see things for herself as opposed to what other people have told her. And I just think Linda Hamilton done that perfectly, and how she sprinkled in her character arc and where it was going. Now, the twist in this book, I did get quite early on. I think it is quite easy to guess, but at the same time, it didn't diminish how I felt about it. And I do think actually it played quite a good part in the story. Also, Jacob, the husband, I love the portrayal of him as well, how he started out and how his character arc developed. I mean, I think it was obvious where it was going, but I just think, I mean, I can't say too much because I don't know much about the faith. I'm not a Mormon woman, but I do feel like from what I've heard, from what I believe, I think it is quite a true portrayal of what it would be like. And I just loved how it was from the female's point of view in a marriage, you know, who maybe don't have a freedom of choice at all. And what I loved even more is the author's note at the end of the book. And it turns out that Linda Hamilton was actually brought up a Mormon, etc. It's just really worth reading that author's note. And she does actually acknowledge how like some of the timelines might not be accurate, but kind of blends into the story and whatnot. And I just really appreciated that author's note, and actually made me appreciate the story even more. So overall, I highly recommend this one. You don't have to be religious at all to enjoy this. If anything, I feel like I may have enjoyed that a little bit more. I definitely feel like this is one to read, especially if you like that gothic kind of setting. This did give me a little bit of Mexican gothic vibes, but it's totally not the same. I can't explain it. And actually another book that I read gave me Mexican Gothic vibes. So maybe that book is just on my brain lately. But yes, overall, highly recommend. And once again, thank you so much to NetGalley and Kensington Publishing for sending me this one. The next book I read was The Wolf King by Lauren Palphreyman. I'm sorry if I've said that wrong, but I rate this one 3.75, and I don't understand this because I could not put this down. So realistically, the fact that I could not put this down, it should be a 5-star, but there was a lot of wrongs in this book, which ultimately I think made it a right. Because again, I had the best time with this one. So the synopsis, very briefly, we're in a world where there are humans and shifter werewolves, and basically they are at war with each other. One day, a alpha of the wolf clan called Callum is kind of brought into the human world for their entertainment of fighting, but he notices our princess Rory, and he decides, actually, I'm going to kidnap Rory because this kingdom, they have something that the wolf clan needs. I feel like I'm not explaining this very well, and I'm so sorry. But essentially, we've got Callum, Wolf Alpha, then we've got Princess Rory, and he kidnaps Rory, and then it's a romantasy. So maybe you can guess the rest. Genuinely, I could not put this down, and I don't know why, because there are a lot of points that annoyed me. Point number 1, the FMC Rory. I cannot stand her. She is so self-righteous. She's so egotistical. I can't stand her. Like, honestly, I don't know if I want to say hate, because if I hated her, would I carry on reading? But I really disliked her. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why she was written like this. Anyway, that was point number 1. Point number 2, the writing itself is quite YA-ish, you know? I mean, it's not a YA book, but the writing is very simple, which I guess is a plus for some people. The plot is very simple. It was just very easy to read, you know? And I guess that's not a bad thing, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. Number 3, it was quite repetitive. And by repetitive, I mean, like, the amount of times that she described one of the wolves of smelling like dark forest must have been about 322 times. Honestly, it was so much. Like, if you took a shot for every time she said, and it smelled like the dark forest, he smelled like the dark forest, I could smell the dark forest, you'd be drunk. You'd be very, very drunk. Number 4, very mildly, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more world building, but I'm fine with that one. I mean, I still had a great time. Now, what I loved about this book is Callum. I know most probably a lot of you are on Team Blake's side. You know, you're loving Blake. I'm all for Callum. I'm giddy for Callum. But what as well, back onto the FMC, I do not understand what they see in Rory, our princess. I don't get, like, that. That's a really big gaping hole for me, because I don't get why they're obsessed with her. She is one of the most annoying characters I've read in a book. So how the hell is she so irresistible? I don't know. But as I said, I loved it. It doesn't make sense. But I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I was flicking the pages so fast. There was a twist at the end. Again, I'm sorry, I'm so like broke a record. I did get the twist. I did get the twist early on. I do think it's quite an easy twist to get. Yeah. I mean, I'm rating it 3.75, which is not a bad rating at all. Did I immediately get The Night Prince? Yeah, I did. Am I going to be reading that sometime soon? I hope so. I really, really hope so. So there are a lot of points to this book that I did not like, but overall I would recommend. I don't know. Please explain this feeling to me, because I feel like this. I shouldn't like this as much as I do, but I'm obsessed. I am obsessed. So take that as you will. Now, the final book I read in February was What Moves the Dead by T.Kingfisher. This is my first T.Kingfisher book, and I'm pleased to say it will not be my last. I rated this one 4 stars. Now, the synopsis, very briefly, we've got Alex Easton, and she is a sworn soldier. And one day she gets a letter from her friend to say that his sister is really, really sick. So she goes along to their house to basically see them and try and see what's going on. Along the way, he meets an Englishwoman who is drawing mushrooms, and it turns out she is a lover of all things mushrooms. But what this Englishwoman kind of implies is that there has been a lot of fungal growths happening in the area. Alex gets to the house, and it turns out, again, the house may not be all what it seems. Now, I have already mentioned Mexican Gothic, but this one really did give me Mexican Gothic vibes. Like, it was, I love that book as well. I think I might have rated that 3.75 or a 4-star. This was very similar, but again, it had its own quirks. But actually, and it mentions on the back that this is a gripping and atmospheric retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's classic, The Fall of the House of Usher, which I haven't read. I think I'm going to be putting it on my list because I really enjoyed this one. Alex Easton as a main character, I really enjoyed her. I think she was very different. She had a lot of humour, which I don't know if that's a testament to T.Kingfisher's writing. Obviously, this is quite a dire time happening, but there was just really pockets of humour that actually made me laugh out loud. So I really appreciated that. It was very atmospheric. Again, we've got that Gothic vibe. I love anything like that. I just eat it up, and there were parts of this where it was really eerie. Got shivers at parts of it, and I was like, oh my god. This is also really tiny. This is 169 pages. It's tiny. So again, I flew through this in like 2 or 3 days, but this tiny book packs a punch. So if you kind of love your Gothic thrillers / horror, I don't know if I'd class this as a horror, but I can see where it's got that tag, but I'm not sure I would class it as that. But if you love anything of that sort, then I think you absolutely love this one. This is a series. I think there's 3 books out, so I am going to be carrying on. I just think, I don't know, like with this book, this could actually happen in a weird way. Like, obviously not the way that it happened, but I just feel like it's quite too close to home. And that is what makes it so eerie for me, and why I was so hooked and like had shivers, and it was just really great. It was really, really great. What I also loved was the descriptions of the animals. It was so eerie. It was so eerie. The book itself was so atmospheric. I actually liked the fact that there wasn't many characters in this as well. And even that, like, there was just a handful of characters, but it was just such a powerful read, and like it just packs a punch. Like, it just proves sometimes it's quality over like quantity, you know? And I think that is what this book represents. It was so good. So honestly, I do highly recommend it. I might even, to be fair, I don't even know if I would rate this higher than a 4, because I really had a good time. I will say I would have liked a little bit more eeriness, maybe at the beginning, but I get that you're kind of setting the scene and whatnot. So I think that was the reason why I gave it a 4. But overall, absolutely loved it. Can't wait to carry on the series. And yeah, I do recommend. And that is my reading wrap up. They are all the books that I read in February. Overall, I actually think I had an amazing month. There's not really a book there that I truly disliked and would not recommend. So I'm going to take that as a win. Of course, I did not read The Household by Stacey Halls, which was on my February TBR. Do you know what I've noticed that I do? I don't read the books that I think I'm absolutely going to love until right at the end of the month, because I see it as like a little treat to read like the best books last. I always do this. I always read the books that I do not think I'm going to love at the beginning of the month, and that needs to change. I'm going to do that for March. I'm not going to read, like, realistically, in my head, I was thinking of reading Tessa Bailey's book first. Obviously, I picked my March TBR in my previous video, and I got Tessa Bailey on there. So realistically, I was going to read that first because I think I'm not going to like it. I might leave that to the end of the month, because then there is a possibility that I won't get to it and I won't be upset. But if you did like this video, please do give it the thumbs up button. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed this content or if you want to see more. And I would also love to know, what was your best read of February? Please do give me a comment. I would love to know all the tea, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.